Just looking for the link for this stream. There it is. I don't know why ads are running on it when I turned the ads off. So that's frustrating. Monetization is off. Thank you. Cool. Okay, put out ping and everything too. How's everyone doing? Hey, Seb. Seb, I figure we're getting so lost in the design for the European campaign that I actually just want to see what people kind of expect or want in the first place. Because maybe they want to be immersed as a general and they just want to be handed the orders and choose where they go. Or maybe they like to just hang out on the map and they don't care if it feels limiting. They just want to choose where they go. They want full control. I don't know what players want in this case. It's to me, it's a matter of this is kind of the weakest part of the design. And it's the least important part of the design, really. It's there purely for aesthetics and immersion. And at that point, if it's aesthetics, I would like other people to come in and tell me what kind of aesthetic looks good to them, what immerses them. Because it's difficult for me as well. We've been in this project for so long, for almost a year now. And we've really got the real-time campaign down. The regions feel good, moving on roads, going to villages, recruiting troops, upgrading your army, fighting the battles. I'm figuring out the pacing. I think I'm figuring out which sounds sound good, like the firing sounds and all of those things to help immersion. Like, I feel like we're nailing it with all of those things. The European campaign, I'm like, I don't know. I could go with a couple different solutions. I don't know what people are going to want and if they're going to be disappointed by different solutions. And to be honest, all of them kind of do the same thing. It's just the presentation. So this is more like, if we're stuck on presentation, then I would really like people to kind of chime in and tell me what they think. So for context, anybody who's here, our game is broken into 3 layers. And I'll draw some diagrams just to make everything simple, just because it's not especially complex, but it's just a little messy. I think that's a good way to put it. So I would like to kind of draw out what the scope of the game is, show you guys where we're at and what the 3 main layers of the game are, and how we're actually stuck a little bit on one layer. Everything else is coming along so well that I have absolute confidence that by the time we intend on releasing, it's going to be really good. It's going to feel polished. I'm really happy with the design. There's just this one little part of the design that I'm just kind of like unsure of. And it's also the least significant too. So the sooner we can like figure something out, I think the better. And we've been kind of stuck on it and reworking a lot. Anyways, I'll give you the kind of breakdown of the layers of the game. So the first thing is, as you clicked on the thumbnail, the kind of like European map that you see. So you've got like Denmark and Prussia, and then you can't really see Italy, but I'm just drawing the rest of the map there. You kind of have this like European map, and you have like these arrows that lead you to different areas. Then you have the real-time campaign. This is the thing you guys have probably seen the most, where you have all these roads that go around and twist and connect, and then we have these little villages that you can visit, and then we have the big enemy army waiting at the end, and you as a player can explore the region, and you can fight battles, you can stop at these villages, upgrade your forces. This is like a big part of the experience. You're going to spend a good amount of time here. And then anytime you do meet an army to go fight them, the third layer, the final layer here, are the real-time battles. So that's where we get these armies fighting each other in real time. You see your troops fighting, you see the musket volleys. This, honestly, if we were to look at like the most exciting parts of the game down to the least exciting and least important, it actually kind of go the opposite way, where this stuff is the most exciting, and then mid-exciting, and then low-exciting. And so these things I'm much more confident about. It's this element of the game that's the least developed and least important to this part of the loop. Yeah, Merritt is putting it nicely. He's saying, you've got the political map, a strategic, and tactical. That's right. So what I'm just confused about is like, okay, let me also give some further context. We designed on this strategic map. I don't know why my computer's lagging a little bit. Okay, Unity's open. Do I have anything else? I have this open that I can delete. There. Okay, so let's see what this current design is right now. So with this European map, the player currently sees their little map of Europe, right? You are handed a region option. You can fight here or you can fight here. It's kind of like it picks it at random. And both of those, this is going to look like a little dick drawing, but both of those lead over to like a headquarters region. Okay, so you have to first pick one. So I'm going to pick that one. You are then transported, right, to this like strategic map. You fight battles, right? And then you go to this one, and then exactly what Merritt is saying is right. It's like you're picking campaigns to fight, basically. This is like a mission board of what campaigns you go on. So this was working okay. The kind of issues you can already see here is that we're only using this small sliver. What else is happening over here? You have this big open dead space, and I'll show you exactly what I mean in game. Let me actually show you a preview of what it currently looks like in the actual game and how it looks a little bit empty. As it's loading up, the other thing I'll say is, so that you've got to pick one region, right? And then you have to go to this one. So that's 2 regions you're going to fight in, okay? Then I have it so another set is generated, and then one more set as well. And that follows the same structure. Pick 1 of 2, and then go to the end. Pick 1 of 2, and then go to the end. This means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regions you have to fight over. Okay, so it's a little bit like, I don't know if that's confusing or not. Again, I've been looking at it so long, I can't tell what's confusing, what's not, but that's the current structure of it. The first thing is, it kind of is hard to explain, right? And it's like the least important part of the game that's taking the longest to explain. If I explain the battle system and I say, line up troops, they'll fire in real time, flank enemies, and bomb them with artillery, it's like, I can get that point across pretty damn easily. This one's like a little confusing, and it's the least important part of the game. Let me get the volume off. All right, and then let me show you an actual example in game of what that looks like. So you can see here it randomly picked Lusatia and Saxony. So I pick one of them, and they both lead to Bohemia. Once I take Bohemia, it's going to pick another 2 regions somewhere else, and they're going to lead to these like encampments. So that's another upcoming headquarters. Bohemia's a headquarters, down here's a headquarters, and it randomly generates a 3rd one. The 3rd one happens to be in East Prussia. So I'm going to have to fight 1 and 2, then 3 and 4, then 5 and 6 to finish the campaign. Again, one part here is like it's a bit weird how empty this map is. I mean, you could just zoom in, so that part isn't as bad. We can just like even freeze the zoom so you can't zoom out much further. But okay, here's what throws a wrench in this entire system. This is assuming the player is going to fight through 6 regions. I've been playtesting the game, and I want the design to follow what's most fun. So let's pause the European map real quick. This node map here, I've been finding, because I have to go through 6 regions, as soon as I load in one, I follow a road, go all the way down the road, go to the end of the army. I might fight a couple battles on the way there, and I'm just gone. I just do that as quickly as I can. I don't get to go out in the countryside and explore. I don't get to go find encounters. I don't get to explore or backtrack between villages and towns and get to know them, and then try to maybe even buy goods here and then sell them at another town and maybe even make a profit on it. There's like little things like that I think would be fun to do, but you don't get to do that because there's 6 of these. You got to keep moving, right? That to me is not as fun though. I found the magic number, for now at least, was like around 4 for me. I think 4 is fun because you can kind of go easy region, then the next one's medium, then the next one's hard, and the other one's super hard, and the enemy comes right after you. And so I like the difficulty curve. I like the pacing. I like when there's 4, there's less, but you spend more time in each region. It's like I'd rather have a more in-depth experience within the region than a lot of shallow experiences. Now that being said, let me also add a caveat there. 4 regions is what I want to design it around. I intend on letting the player, if they finish their 4 regions, instead of the game just finishing and saying, okay, congrats, you won. You took all 4 regions. That's enough to bring the enemy to peace talks. You've won the war. I don't mind just adding a continue button, and you can just keep playing, and it'll just keep feeding you regions as long as you want to. Because there's some players who like the roguelike experience where they want a tight, polished gameplay loop. Give me X amount of regions. Like, I play Slay the Spire, give me 3 acts. I play FTL, give me like 4 or 5 star systems, whatever your comparison is, and you want to be done. You're done with the run. You're ready to start a whole new build, right? There's some players who like that. There's other players who are like, hey, I don't like restarting all the time. I want to really get attached to my force, and I want to play as long as I want to. So we want to also allow those players to continue onward. Regardless, players are going to be able to do that no matter what. But either way, 4 is like, to me, the intended balanced experience to letting a player stay in these regions. Anyways, how that affects this map is now, instead of having like 3 kind of theaters with like regions in them, Well, now it's kind of limited to like 2. And now we're using the map even less, right? Because we're trying to put more emphasis on this part of the game that's actually fun, and the European map just gets in the way. The other issue I'll mention too is the more emphasis is placed on this European map, the more you're moving around it and you're like showing these complex arrows, it gives an impression to the player, as I'm already seeing in the comments here, like allow the AI to create fortified positions, right, on this map. Or someone else said like you have political power. I'm not sure where I saw that comment, but somebody said, I don't know where it is. Somebody was saying like you have like, oh, right here, Mr. Haddadu, you have political power and maybe you could add extra complexity to this. But my point is, hey, I want to add the complexity over here. When I'm a general, like marching down the road and crossing mountains, that's really fun, and getting into battles. This is the meat of the game. So anyways, I bring you to my proposals, which, again, now if we're only doing 4 regions, the theater system that looks like this doesn't really work, right? Because you go 1, 2, and then you just do 3, 4, and you're done. Well, what the hell was the point of this? Like, the map feels weird. And also, why are these regions flowing into Bohemia? What is the purpose of Bohemia? How does that contribute to anything? And so none of this is really explained, and none of it is that important. And I'm just trying to think, like, what's a more elegant way of presenting this map without putting as much focus on it and giving the player the impression that, like, oh, this is like Total War or Paradox, where I'm spending all the time on the map and I'm painting the map and I have political power and doing that sort of thing. Haddado, yeah. Even if it was a joke, I'm just like, I've shown this to people and they think that this map is maybe more significant than it actually is. When I go into a region and it looks like this, like so, this is the fun part. Like, I get to explore these mountain ranges. I get to go visit towns. I go inside. I can recruit. I got the Fry Corps inside. I have an officer I can pick up. I can go trade. There's items. I can even hire like a chaplain for my army. I can get better horses for my cavalry. There's all these kind of things to do. There's even little encounters. So if I find this little supply depot, I can go investigate. Hey, what's that? And walk up to it. And it says stacks of crates and barrels. There's vigilant soldiers. It's heavily guarded. Do you want to pass by or assault this depot? And oh, there might be extra supplies there. And I'm just cheating to bounce around right now. That's why my character is kind of flicking everywhere. There are even little, and we haven't done all the encounters. There's going to be tons of encounters. Right now the map looks quite empty because we're missing a lot of encounters, but there are little like animals that you can hunt too. Like over here, if you find a herd of deer, a herd of deer, foragers spot a whole pack. That should be changed. A herd of deer offering a rare bounty of food. Okay, an army marches on its stomach. We gained food from that too. So you can kind of like explore the map and find maybe a broken caravan or an enemy supply depot. There's tons of different encounters and content. There's even this little enemy that started chasing me. I don't know where he went. Oh, he's right there. He's in the mountains chasing me. So there's like all these moments. This is a fun part of the game. I like this. And then you see the enemy headquarters in the corner kind of growing. And if I fast forward, we can even see they have one little tent there. They're at low health bar. And then over time, as this day ticks up, this enemy is actually building up. Look, they added another tent. Once this reaches 6,000, they'll chase me. So then I have a whole new dynamic where I'm now being chased out of the region. I've got to confront that army and beat it. Anyways, this is all to say a lot of the depth and enjoyment out of the game derives from that system. Okay, I'm kind of talking in circles a little bit. But I have a lot of proposals here. Mainly it's just these two here. The first one is, maybe if you're a general and you're not a politician, you're not spending political power and organizing diplomacy, maybe when you start the game, 2 maps are thrown in front of you on a wooden table. Almost think of it like Medal of Honor a little bit, if anybody has seen kind of want to just set the scene. You know, the main menu of Medal of Honor is like, it's like this, you know, like you feel like a soldier, like looking at the mission briefing, ready to go in. I get the pistols on the table. I'm ready to move in. This map is just kind of like laying in the background, right? If this map on the table was really blown up and the map was the biggest thing you saw, you would think, oh, it's like Hearts of Iron. But no, that's not the case. In this case, they kind of put the map in the background and then everything else is kind of in front of it. And in this case, you kind of have this like wooden table and maybe 2 maps are thrown in front of you. And they say, General, your choice, one choice could be for you to invade Bohemia, or you could defend Brandenburg. And the game logic is just kind of like randomizing. It's just picking 2 regions, right? There's no strategic importance to these. It's not as if these are connected in any way. It's just saying like, hey, we're going to serve you 2 randomly generated procedural missions. Which mission would you like to go on? You're the general. Let's not look at the big strategic global map. Let's just look at like these 2 isolated areas. What do you want to do? And it just immediately tells you, hey, if you go to Bohemia, we're going to randomly generate conditions for them. So infantry's cheaper here, but shops might be rare. Or if you defend Brandenburg, enemies are less frequent, but the cavalry recruitment is very low. What you could even do is this defend versus invade terminology could even determine maybe some of the AI behavior when you actually get into this region, maybe, right? And so you're just kind of like looking at these operational maps, not the big zoomed out strategic view. I think something that does take away from this is you don't get that feeling of map painting because these are just like isolated little planned images, right? They're kind of like this. Like imagine you were given this little historical looking map with arrows all over it and your country, and then maybe the countries you're going to be opposing. So let's say it was Russia and Austria defending a region. Then this would be like the map that you're given on your table as a general, right? And then this is your other map. And it's like, all right, sir, pick which one you want to go to. They've got pros and cons. They're two different regions. Here are the enemies there. Pick one and let's get moving. You make a quick decision. You get in the game, you go. There's no like long animation or zooming out and looking around the map and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the idea here. So you pick a mission, you go into that region and fight it, you conquer it, and then you come back, and it just gives you two completely random ones. Now it says, all right, now we've got an opportunity to invade the Rhine, or we go to East Prussia. And it's just drawing regions out of a hat, right? To the player, they kind of feel immersed. They're like, oh, I made some progress. You know, maybe I've took Bohemia. Maybe it's time to advance on the Rhine and fight the French. And then all the while on the top left, they see your war score. Oh, conquer 4 regions and I'll win. But if the player wants to go on past 4, the game can just keep serving you more regions over and over and over again. They can serve you a whole bunch. Merritt is saying, how random would it be? Would you want players to choose the option of taking Bohemia, then the next option is defending something of what you just took? Maybe, but that's something like that could be built upon, maybe. I just don't want the player thinking too much like, if I go here, I might get counterattacked, and then I'm going to get encircled, and then this is going to happen, and what if Austria exits the war, and then Bavaria joins it? Like, I don't want them to think too much ahead of themselves in that way. Fogel, I think I'm misinterpreting what you're saying. You said the colored territories looks nice. You're not implying that when I'm presenting this, I'm not saying we're going to show black and white maps. I think what you're saying though is you think there is something nice about coloring in the map, right? Is that the kind of point you're saying, where it's like there's still something satisfying of having colored territories and coloring in the map? One thing I will say is if we give the player these kind of like focused regions, you can still color them. Like this is, let's say, Austrian territory. It's colored yellow, and you have like the Austrian flag next to it. You can kind of still make that like that. The other thing I did draw, let me just take a picture on my phone, and because I was sketching something on paper. And let me just send that to myself. And then I'll show you what I drew. It doesn't look great. I was not expecting to show it to people. But it's just for the example. And sorry if it seems like I'm ignoring you guys or talking fast. I do care about the feedback. But I'm just trying to like, it's kind of like a dense thing to go over. And I'm just trying to explain it the best I can. Then I can kind of look at what you guys think. Okay, there we go. So this is a little hard to read, but you have a table. Oh God, the pencil, just ignore it. But you get like, in this case, I was showing you 3 maps that are presented to you, right? And let's say I pick the first one. And then maybe once you choose it, it actually shows you a little map of Europe and like a flag planting there. And then you go into the region. Or what it could even do is you pick this region, right? And it sends you to go fight there. And once you finish fighting, then instead of loading you back here, it actually loads you and shows you like a big map and then shows the flag planting and saying, hey, look what you did. You took this territory. It's now green, but the game is not about the map. So as soon as we show you this animation, we're going to fold up the map and put it away because it's not the focus of the game. And then we're going to present you your next 3 options. So think of it like this. You start the game, you get 3 options on the table. General, do you want to attack? Do you want to go raid this region or defend? What do you want to do? Each of those has like a pro and a con to it. There's no overarching strategy here. It's just like, you know, we've got to fight the enemy. Where do you want to go fight the enemy? There are some conditions in those areas. Okay, I choose one. The moment you choose it, it loads you into this map. You spend 10 hours even fighting across this map, fighting battles, moving around, doing all the kind of gameplay there. Once you finish it, you come out, you're back to the table, but instead of seeing 3 options, you now see the European map, and it shows a flag planted of where you just took. It said, congratulations, General, because of what you did, you took this territory. The rest of the map could kind of be like sepia toned. It doesn't have to be too detailed, right? It's not showing like advanced political borders and maneuvers. That's not the purpose of the game. And instead of lingering on it, we just go, okay, congratulations, there's your animation, but we're going to fold that and put it off to the side. And after putting it off to the side, let's look at your next 3 options, General. What do you want to do? and then you pick something, and then you go back to that region. So that could be a cool way of like making you feel like I'm a general at the table. My options, my aide de camp or my advisors have presented me 3 plans to go with. Which one do I commit to? And then when you do successfully take the region, you get this really nice satisfaction of being like, oh, cool, I planted my flag there, I took it. And the other thing that is kind of cool about this is you only need to take 4 to win, right? 4 of these territories to win. That's like the pacing that I kind of want to go for. But the player can continue past the end point of the game. So if you kept getting presented plans over and over again, and it keeps pulling out new regions for you, then eventually the entire map would get covered after like, I think there's 20 regions in the game, right? So you only need to take 4. But if you continued playing and took all 20, you'd look at this map, you'd take a screenshot and tell your friends, dude, look, I did a whole world conquest as Prussia. You may even get an achievement for doing that. And now you're proud of that you've colored the whole map your color. But because the emphasis of the game is not so focused on the map, there is no point where when the player first boots up the game, we don't even show them the map, right? We just show them as a general, choose where you want to go. And then after you take a region, you can kind of see the impact of that. But we don't want to first, right now, your first impression of the game, right? This is wrong to me because the first impression, oh, I'm leading Prussia, and guess what? Oh, a huge map. Okay, I'm going to launch these invasions. Where's the tech tree? Where's the diplomacy? Where's the economy? Where's the navy? Where's all my boats over here? But that's not what this game is, so I don't want a player to... This is a bad first impression, in my opinion. And I think maybe what I said kind of still gives you the map painting satisfaction, but also it immerses you as an officer. You're like receiving battle plans. You're not like the king necessarily. I mean, if you're playing as Frederick the Great, technically you are the king. But I mean, you're being immersed less as a statesman and more as a general. A statesman's looking at all the countries around the world, but a general is looking at like, okay, there's a mountain there. Do we go to the left side or do I send my army to the right and we bypass that and cross the river? Okay, let me read what your kind of feedback is saying. This is where I left off. The current one has a feel to it, visually emphasizing the scattered nature of those days. Procopius likes the map here. Merritt says, because armies didn't move as giant front lines, you would have occasions where you're outmaneuvered and thus have to backtrack where you've already been. Proc says, and that would seemingly be lost with a more limited map. Austin says, after winning a region, have the country's leader congratulating you on the achievement. Well, I think that's maybe a bit too far, like a special animation for that. But that's where I was getting at with the animation of like a flag planted on the map, so you can actually see the reward of what you did, basically. Clever thinking and loops of focus really shows the art and craft of game design. Thank you, D-Man. I see where you're going because you're not leading the state as a whole, but you're leading one of their field armies, yeah. This is a decent solution, but could make the player feel more isolated as you go through campaigns. Yeah, again, do you guys see how tough this design is? Because I don't want to give the player the impression that they're the politician or they're the omnipotent ruler of the whole nation, as if you were playing Total War at U4. I really want you to be immersed. Like, for example, when you're in one of our regions and you check out your camp, we don't show like a battle ledger that shows like, here's a list of 15 armies under your control. You open your camp and you physically see trees and tents and soldiers and officers standing around. This is like your personal home space for your army. You only have one of these. You only have one army. So it's like the whole point of the game is like more personal and on a more local level. Like I can even click these soldiers, open up their flags, and play with the design of individual regiments. So everything has more of a micro focus, and I'm just afraid to give this player, the players, this giant Europe map and make them think that that's the main part of the game when it's not. But I also understand the importance that players in a history game, they want to contextualize where they are and what their achievements are, and they want to know what the war is about, especially a historical strategy game. So I think that is important too. But hopefully this gives you maybe a little more context as well of like what the scope and the scale is of this game and like what you're actually focusing on doing. By the way, we added in new flag patterns, and you can make all kinds of crazy... Look, I can make a French Napoleonic flag. So you can you can like roleplay any army you want to, or you could be like, all right, we're going full like Roman... I don't know why it's... Oh, it has to be white. There we go. We're going like full Roman with red banners and gold eagles or something like that. So that's kind of fun too. And then you can do like a red design there. Anyways, yeah, just to show you kind of the context there. All right, let me read some more comments. Proc says, but it could be found unwise to cut the player from the knowledge of how the war is progressing. Proc, that's why I'm thinking, what do you think of my proposal where the first time you boot up the game, right? The first time you start the campaign, all you see are these 3 isolated like mini maps, these theaters that you could be campaigning in. You're sent to that theater, and then when you come out, then for the first time you're seeing this European map, and then you see your flag get planted in the area that you just campaigned in, as if to say like, hey, look how you impacted the war. And then before you have a chance to interact with it, you can't interact with it, it folds up. And maybe you could even let the player click on it to unfold it again. If you just want to admire your achievements, that's totally fine. In fact, you could unfold it again and just hover over it, and it would tell you like stats about how you did in the region. But the whole thing would kind of be like paper tone, like as if like a real map on a general's desk. It wouldn't be like colorful EU4 interactive style map. And then when this furls up like that, then we present the player with the next 3. They slide on the table. All right, general, here's your next 3 areas you could go to. Where do you want to fight? And this way to the player, you're clearly telling them, hey, there is a disconnect on purpose between what you're seeing on the map and these proposals. These proposals aren't necessarily related. They're not like, their territories aren't connected, right? When we give you the choice to go to a region, we are actively making the choice to fold up the map to show you you're not worried about the map. You're not worried about like, yeah, but if I take East Prussia, will I upset the Polish government? No, we're going to fold up the map and just look at the battle plans. Like, that's what we want you to look at. Now, that being said, let me give you the other proposal. The other one is saying, hey, screw the immersion as a general. Let's lean into the map painting aspect of the game, even though that's not what the game's necessarily about. And now I'll check the comments one last time, and then I'm going to explain what that proposal is. And then you guys at the end, we're almost done, can tell me what you prefer. So let me just read if you have any other comments. Sir, we need your order. Shall we attack or defend? Yeah, that's kind of the impression that I want to give the player. The problem is thinking that your enemy has multiple armies. Maybe. Or what you're commenting on. It might help show where the enemy armies are. Yeah, I don't want the player to even think there are multiple enemy armies and they're moving around the map, right? Most of that is kind of an illusion. You go into the region and the enemies kind of just spawn in as they are. Okay, I like your idea. I think showing the animation flag being planted is a great way to contextualize the player while making them not feel like an omnipotent ruler. That's kind of what I'm thinking, Jay. Yeah, I think small details are important, like example, troops cheering or their generals ride past them and the men is... that's a little detailed. The men looking older as they get older. Okay, we aren't going to simulate age in the game. I know what you're getting at, Anzac. I like the more limited scope. There isn't going to be a great reason to show the whole map when you're just going to be fighting in Bohemian Silesia. I would like to see it in some other way. Impetuous says, wait, I just came here. Is there sort of proposal exclusive to the player, or will the AI make their own overall actions as well? Impetus, it's mainly just the player. It's mainly just the player. Yeah. Okay, let me pause this, and let me show you the second proposal. And the other thing I want to clarify, because that's a good question someone asked, on this map, there's no AI, right? I don't want this to be the focus of the game. Partially for design reasons, because the game is focused on being a general, not a big operational scale like leader in this case. But secondly, because we just don't have the scope or the budget or the time to kind of handle that. We want to just do a few things and do them correctly and not try to over-promise. And then you're going to get the game and it's going to be buggy and it's going to be missing stuff, right? So I want to really flesh this out and make it feel really nice when you're moving around the countryside and you're recruiting troops and engaging armies. This is where there's AI. There is AI that will run from you, that will chase you, that will build up, that's going to try to block strategic positions. This is where the AI shines. On that European map, it's just decoration. It would be like if we were looking at Medal of Honor and going, hey, do German forces reinforce D-Day when you go and land on them and fight the first mission of the game? It's like, it's just there as design, it just makes you feel like you're a soldier looking at the map of World War II. It's not really the more interactive part of the game. Okay, let me get to proposal number 2 though first. Okay, let's look at the dynamic map proposal. So this one just puts you onto that European map. We get rid of this idea of having the mini maps with like proposals and general, do you want to go here, do you want to go there? All of that's gone, right? We just go to the big European map. We take from your capital, we just draw out 3 arrows to random regions and say you could attack here, or I don't know, you could defend here. This attack and defense language is somewhat interchangeable. That's more for a separate conversation on whether the player even has the ability, whether it's with the dynamic map proposal or with the choice system, to attack and defend. Let's just put that on hold. For the time being, let's just call everything an invasion. It's just saying, where do you want to go, essentially? But in this case, it's like, all right, we're just going to pick 3 regions on this map. Where do you want to go? And you hover over them, and then it tells you the pro and the con of what's there, and then the pro, and then the con, and then the pro, and you kind of hover in between them and choose. You click on it, you go there, you come back to the map, and next thing you know, that region is now green with your flag on it, and now it's just going to pick another 3 regions. And that just goes on forever, right? It's just, you stay on this map, another 3 regions are chosen, I hover over them, pro and con, pro and con, pro and con. Okay, I'm going to decide to go up north. You go up north, you successfully take it, your flag gets planted there, and then you just carry on. And you just keep doing that until you've taken 4 regions, and then you've won. And the regions are kind of selected at random. They're a bit disconnected. And I think that's fine because at this time there was really no front line. Like armies were just swinging all around the place. At one point, France was over here and then just shot an army over east. But in this case, yeah, you're just playing on this map. But the only thing I'm worried about is just if the player thinks that more is happening on this map than actually is. It's what this really essentially is a glorified mission selector. That is essentially what we're trying to do here. By the way, one little cool innovation is if we wanted to fill up the map to look less empty, you could add these little envelopes on it. And maybe if you click an envelope, it gives you like, I don't know, a chance to buy extra troops before you go into the next region or do something like that. So you could try to like spice up the map with like more stuff on it. I don't know, but yeah. But again, just I don't want you to underestimate the problem here with someone saying, wait, why was I only given these 3 regions? You know, I took Bohemia. Why can't I go attack Vienna? You know, if I attacked Vienna, will the Austrians surrender and pull out of the war? But again, this is it's a glorified mission selector. It's not a responsive AI like full minigame in and of itself. It's just this. The purpose of this is to serve you regions to go fight in, and you have fun in these regions. You fight battles, you build up your army, and you come back to the map to go to the next one. And that's essentially what it's kind of doing there. So. Yeah, this one definitely scratches more of the itch of like, oh, everywhere I go, I leave a little green trail behind and I conquer the area and I leave a little flag. Okay, that's cool. Maybe if I play this past the intended end date, I could paint all these areas and now I've kind of like painted the map and I've taken all the regions and okay, that's cool. I can send this to my friend. Maybe I got an achievement for taking everything. So yeah, this one kind of just cuts out the like pick 2 part and just like hangs you out on the map the whole time. Someone pointed out, is this pretty much what we currently have? What did somebody say here? I don't know where he said. Yeah, dynamic is the current system, right? Yeah, Neutron, it's somewhat of the current system. The current system, what the current system does is it's a bit more convoluted. It's kind of a worse version where it's like, okay, pick one of 2 regions, and then one of those 2 regions is connected to Holstein, which is another region that you're going to have to go to next. And then you're like, wait, why am I going to Holstein next? I just want to go to one of these. What? Like, there's not really an explanation as to why you have to go there. My idea originally was to have, this was the original idea, which we are not going to go with anymore. The idea was pick one of 2 areas, which will have to lead to a headquarters. Then pick another one of 2 areas, which leads to a headquarters. And then pick another one of 2 areas, which leads to a headquarters. And in that way, you fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regions, and you've won. Theater 1, Theater 2, Theater 3. I don't like that many regions, though. I think the player should not be told to go to 6 different regions where you're just blitzing through them. From playing the game, I think it's more fun to hang out in a region, explore the countryside, pick battles, build up the army. That's the more fun part of the game. So I don't think this needs as much complexity as having like a theater system and regions that chain into each other. And then ultimately, it just looks a bit confusing. Like, why do I have to go forward to go backward? Why do I have to do that? And I have no explanation for the player for that. I don't know why. Like, we just kind of like put it together. So this system, I think, I'm just not a fan of in general. Okay, that is all my proposals pretty much here. This one I think is more immersive, but this one plays more to the like map painter crowd who just wants to always see a map, even though the map doesn't really do too much. This one still could have a map integrated into it, right? This choice system proposal here. Remember what I was saying? This is essentially this one, where I remember I was showing the drawing where I was saying, you know, you show them 3 possible locations, or 2 or 3, doesn't matter. You go into the region, and then when you come out of it, then you get a map that shows you how well you did, and it plants a flag there, and then that map will fold back up and then show you your next 3 proposals to fight in. So, okay, does this make sense? It's difficult to know if I'm explaining this correctly because I've been looking at this for 6 months, and I'm like losing my mind over it because it's just the one part of the game that's so awkwardly placed in. Like if we had infinite budget and infinite time, we wouldn't have this problem at all because the European map would be what you're traveling on. If I had the budget and the time, right? This is, let's say, Denmark. There's Prussia. Like your army would be on the physical map itself, and then you'd be actually moving onto it and fighting battles. You wouldn't need a third layer, but we just don't have quite the budget, the time, and the kind of the resources to tackle something as ambitious as that. So we're starting smaller, and that's why this region system is kind of tacked on here. The other nuclear option could be to just cut this, and every time you finish a region, it just hands you another one. But I feel like that gets rid of a lot of the immersion. I feel like there is some merit to the aesthetic and to the immersion of feeling like you're centered in Europe somewhere, and it adds to that historical feeling to it. If we were just making a generic roguelike game, then what's it called? If we're making a generic roguelike game, then we would not need any map at all, of course. Or the map could be like fictional and just like always moving in one direction. But it's tough when we're bound by history in that way. Okay, let me read your guys' feedback because I'm done with my proposals, and now I'm just curious to answer questions and see what you guys think. So I like proposal number 1. I think the cosmetic map where you can roll up would be a nice compromise. Yeah. I would like a mix of both systems. I think the big campaign map should let you pick which front to turn your attention to, and you're stuck on that front until you've won. See, Merit, the only issue with that is like you only have 4 regions to fight, right? So like going to a front and being stuck there, well, if you're fighting 4 regions and there's pretty much like, 3 or 4 enemies, that means each front is just one region, and then there isn't really a front system. But even the very proposal of this idea of having fronts, you're now complicating, right? Like if I was on the Call of Duty main menu selecting a mission, and you said, Griffin, missions 1 through 3 are going to represent this different front, but depending on how well you do, you're going to be stuck on that front until you can get to mission 4, 5, and 6. But first, you've got to go. It's like, hey, well, look, you just go to mission 1, then you go to mission 2, then you go to mission 3. And if we can make it look cool between missions, then great. But even though what you're saying is cool, I just think the fun in the game is like when you're in the real-time map and fighting battles. That's where the focus should be. So I don't want to have to do any like super development with like fronts and turning your attention, and the AI is going to counterattack you and do all this. And okay, take a step back, slow it down. Like we don't have time for that. So that's kind of just an explanation as to why we're not making it more complex. Just don't make the political map too complicated because it's overwhelming. Yeah, that's generally what I think. This game isn't supposed to be grand strategy, so if I can say it isn't wise to do grand strategy light, so to say immersion's much more important. That's kind of what I think. And one example, Proc, is like the one example I've tried to give a bit to my developers. Maybe I haven't used this exact analogy, but one proposal at one point was like, why not show the map of Europe? And maybe you guys would like this. You tell me. I personally don't, and I'll explain why. But the proposal was, why don't we just have a map of Europe? We'll have 20 different provinces, and you only need 4 to win. But you can just like click on any of these provinces. They're everywhere. And you just like click on them and conquer them, and new ones appear, and then you just keep conquering them and just go everywhere, and you just paint the whole map. But to me, like when you see this, I get the fishbowl issue. This is the analogy I want to use. Like if you had a game that showed you all of its parameters, it shows you the extent of the fishbowl that you're in, this feels like I'm trapped. But if the fishbowl is hidden and I'm just playing within here, it feels like the game is endless. There's everywhere to go. And the moment you show a player a map and you show them all the little regions you could go to, and they're all like, we have 20 regions in the game, click on any of them and you can go here, you feel like, oh, I see this game is basically like a smaller Total War. It has less provinces. It's a smaller area. The provinces have less depth. I can't build in those provinces. I can't trade them. I can't conduct diplomacy. You've shown me the fishbowl, and I feel like this game is just small and not fun. Like this is just a not fun system. It's a worse risk, right? But if you don't show any of the provinces, and instead the map is kind of blank, and then you get 2 papers that slide onto a table, and it says, General, enemy reports they're in Silesia, or we can hold Brandenburg. What do we choose? Where do we go? Okay, I don't see a fishbowl. I'm like, shit, where do we want to go? Like, I'm making a decision as an officer. I'm not anywhere near this. I don't see you're not seeing the logic of like all the back end of how many types of regions that you could be sent to or anything. All of that is an illusion so that you're just focused on it being immersed as a commander. Does this analogy kind of make sense? Like in my, like exactly what the one guy was saying, either you do a great grand strategy or no grand strategy at all. A grand strategy light is like showing you the fishbowl and saying, hey, we're a bad grand strategy game. Here's all the parameters. If you play Total War, it looks like this. And if you play Paradox, the fishbowl is like this. But you're stuck here. This is clearly what the parameters are of the game. And you're like, oh, well, that feels like crap. But if you hide this and you make it invisible, you're like, yeah, technically the game is this small, but let's not show them that. You know, it'd be like if you're in an open world game and you look out into the ocean, into the distance, and you're like, wow, it looks like it goes on forever. Versus being in an open world game and saying, hey, we didn't have the budget, so we had to put like a big brick wall here, and you can't go past that. And you're like, oh, that makes me feel like I'm trapped in this small bubble. But when you tear down this wall, right, and it's just this ocean, but you can't swim, and it goes on forever, seemingly, you're like, wow, this game is vast. It feels more immersive. I feel like I'm just looking out into the distance, right? So when I'm looking at the table, I don't see these limited amount of provinces and limited amount of content. I just see the two orders I'm given. Even the dynamic map proposal, which is proposal number 2, still does that, right? Like it's only showing you 3 regions. It's only showing you 3 options of where you could go. It's saying, hey, general, you can either attack this direction, attack here, or attack here. We're not going to show you all the little provinces or how we figured this out. We're just going to pretend like you're a commander. You've drawn these pencil marks on the table, and these are the 3 areas you're just allowed to go to. This is what we've picked out. So whether each proposal kind of has that, where we hide the fishbowl. But what I don't want to do is like make them think this is a mini grand strategy game, and it's just not as good. And then it just feels like you're playing Risk or something, you know? I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to explain there. I don't know if what I said makes sense to you guys, but yeah. Neutron says, I like the choice system more overall because the strategic map is too simple to make it a focus. I do think you could still scratch the itch of the map painters, though. Yeah, Neutron, I think you would scratch the itch of the map painters by every time you choose a region and complete it, you roll out the map and then show them what they did, what they accomplished. Like, here's the flag we planted there. Now we're going to put that map away because it's not the focus. We don't want to show you the fishbowl and show you that you're actually kind of trapped in this small area. Let's put that away and let's just show you 3 more like paper strategies. General, do you want to attack here? That's less limiting. That sounds more real. It's like the other thing, just to not go on too much of a rant, but as a person getting into game design, I've been thinking more about like, even when I've been developing like just for fun little tabletop war games, and when some people play board games or tabletop war games, you say like, okay, 15 inches and I can go that direction, or 13 inches modified by 2 and I can do this. Okay, I'm gonna roll for the Overwatch, but I'm gonna use 2 action points and 3 AP to get there. Okay, the terminology that you just spoke out loud and the terminology you just used in your brain, that's all like abstract and numbers and not what a real commander would be thinking. But if you said when you're playing a game, if you said, okay, I'm going to take a forced march and then I'm going to fire at you at effective range, that sounds like what a real commander would say, right? You're using like real terms, but in a gamified way. So anyways, I'm using that example here because it's not like you're saying, okay, here's a limited map with these provinces. That's just a game that is less developed than a Paradox game, and you're like, well, I can go take the province here, but I don't have a core over there, and then I'm gonna go take these 2 regions, and that's like you're using like this gamified, these arbitrary provinces that's just less in depth than other games that are just doing it better. And instead, when you're being handed papers, you're not thinking like, oh, does that region connect to this? Do I have a core on that area? And it's like you're just, as a general, you're handed the papers. Do you want to defend this area? That's like a fully immersive kind of thought that it's the same. I'm maybe having a hard time explaining this, but it's the same way. It's the same reason when you go to your camp, we don't show like a paper ledger, or not a paper ledger, but a UI ledger that's just black with white text on it, or something like very simple. We show like physically the tents, and you can expand your division and drag troops into new encampments and pick up an officer and put him in command of the division. I want you to feel like you're there. Like a commander doesn't think, okay, well, I'll click the transfer button, but I'm missing 13 political power to commit the transfer button. You don't think that. You just think like, okay, Cantonists, you're going to move over to 1st Division under commander von Anhalt-Dessau. Like that, to me, like I feel like I'm immersed as a commander. So the more we can maintain that illusion, and you don't start to see the fishbowl and you're just like playing the game for being immersed as an officer, as a commander, that to me is like, that captures a really special feeling that I want this. The game is a limited scope, but I don't want you to think the game is limited. I just want you to be thinking, I'm a commander, I'm moving these troops here, I'm opening up their flag, and we're going to give you, my troops are going to be given orange colors on their regimental flag. And like, that's kind of cool. That's like, maybe I could see if I was peeking into a 1700s military encampment, maybe I could see some of the women at the camp stitching a new flag and sewing in and making an orange flag for this regiment, or like those are kind of like things you could almost envision and picture. It's not just this big UI menu. It's like what you're actually seeing. So how that pertains to this is like you're actually given the papers of these regions you could go to. It's not this like gamified map that's just not as good as a Paradox game, right? If you're going to do a gamified map, give me a whole world map that's like really in depth. Otherwise, don't give me that because it's just going to seem limiting. So anyways, that's kind of my thought process on that, not to ramble on too much. Let me actually read your guys' feedback for once. I like the immersion of the map, especially this era's borders. I think the choice system works well for the vibe of the game as a general being given choices rather than a ruler making all the choices. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well. Just having the fronts be your basic selection thing. Merritt, do you want to give me a little bit more? I kind of see where you're going with that. Do you want to write a little bit more of that idea if you're still there? Of something, what you mean a little bit more. Like, instead of being given region names, you're given like fronts, like the Western Front against the French, or I feel like that. I would rather, though, as a player, just be like, okay, I'm going to go into Bohemia to attack the Austrians, instead of saying like you're going onto the Southern Front. At that point, like, give me the geographical name, because I want to feel like this is the 7 Years' War, right? So, like, for example, if I was playing a game about the American Civil War and I was handed papers to go to Petersburg or Vicksburg or the Peninsula, that feels way more immersive than saying like, would you, General Grant, do you want to go onto the Southern Front or the Eastern Front or the Western Front? That feels a bit less like, that feels like a reskin. Like, that could be for any game, you know? So unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, feel free to explain and kind of like develop what you were saying there a bit more, Merritt, if you'd like. Austin, I don't think each of them would be easy, medium, hard. I think they would each just come with a different pro and con. So one might have cheaper infantry. If you go to one region, the infantry there is on a discount. The other one might say the region's devastated, so there's less villages. They were destroyed. But if you go there, maybe because it was devastated, there's less enemies. So you actually, there's less enemies constantly attacking you. So you have more time to explore, but maybe there's a little less to explore. So each region kind of comes with its own pro and con, not necessarily that one's easy, medium, and hard. You kind of, as a general, weigh the decisions between, oh, this region was, it's ruined and there's no horses there. So, but I'm building a cavalry army, so I don't want to go there. I want to go to the other region. So, each place would kind of have like this. Bohemia, well, infantry is cheaper, but there's less shops. Brandenburg, there's less enemies there, but my cavalry is kind of limited. That would be kind of like what you'd be given as a player. Okay, let me carry on here. Attack is harder, defending is easy. So with the attack defense thing, what I'm thinking is this. Here's some of the logic. I'm going to try to explain this just as simple as possible. You have Brandenburg. Let me just list off some regions: Bohemia, Silesia, Moravia, and Westphalia. Okay, so with these regions, the natural owner of each of them, Prussia naturally owns Brandenburg. They also naturally own Silesia. Austria naturally owns Bohemia and Moravia, and the French right now are in Westphalia. Okay. When the game gives you your set of orders, it's just going to pick completely by random which regions it's going to propose to you, right? So let me clear these off. So let's say it picks out of a hat. It doesn't matter who you're playing as, right? I could be playing as Prussia, and so it picks Brandenburg by random, and it picks Moravia. Okay. Because Prussia naturally owns Brandenburg, and because you're playing as Prussia, it's now going to say this is a defense, because that's what it picked. And you wouldn't invade Brandenburg as Prussia, right? So it's going to label it as defense. And then because, Moravia is Austria, and Austria is my enemy. Okay, cool. So we're going to draw that out of the hat, and we're going to call that invade. And then what you could do is anything labeled defense could say, as a different type of bonus, you gain 2 army reforms instead of 1 by defending. And, it could say the enemy army here will chase you faster, right? Whereas if you invade, the pro there could be goods at villages are cheap. You're stealing, like you're kind of like looting things, and it's less expensive than campaigning in your own region where you want to be fair to the locals. I'm just making something up, right? But invading also means that, more enemies are in this region naturally. So this pro and con is completely random, but the purple, these like special things, are entirely dependent on whether this region is considered attack or defense. I hope that makes sense. Like, these could just be permanent modifiers of what a defense means and what an invasion means. So it's kind of saying, hey, defense means these things, invade means these things. But the game very well also could have said, all right, I'm picking these out of a hat. I pick Moravia and I pick Bohemia. Oh, both of those are Austrian. So it's going to place them here. And because both of them are Austrian, they're both going to be invade. And because they're both invade, they're both getting the same. Now, this part's different, right? Like the infantry cheaper, enemies are less frequent. These things are just completely random. But the purple, these like action-specific ones, in both cases, I'm invading. So in both cases, it kind of has the same conditions in that way. You could even add more variety, right? You could do like an invade that has modifiers, a defense on a region that has modifiers. You could call one a raid. And a raid could even say like, I'm just making things up again, but like goods at villages are 100% free. Like you just steal anything you want to, but the enemy will be hunting you from the moment you enter. So you can spend very little time there, right? So like that could be a third option for a type of region. Anyways, this is kind of getting into the weeds. This is stuff I could figure out on my own time. I'm okay to do that. I don't necessarily need to democratize the design process of this. This would require more insight of how the game's paced and kind of the back end of things, and what the programmer's actually going to have time to do. The main question is just like how you select regions. That's kind of what I was wanting to talk about. But yeah, okay, let's carry on. And then we can kind of finish up. So choice system might be good, but maybe there could be a consequence. Yeah, I don't know what those consequences would be, honestly. I really don't know because what about this guy? If you're given an invade and defend, anything you choose not to defend automatically falls to the enemy. So when you go to this map that unfurls, which is here, you'll see your flag planted, right? You successfully invaded Moravia, but hey, you didn't take the defense option. And because you didn't take the defense option, so this is the one you conquered, right? Because you didn't take the defense option, the enemy put their flag here. And that doesn't really do anything in a gamified kind of sense, but maybe it just makes the game feel a little bit more like something's happening. One cool thing about doing that, by the way, is that place now has a red flag on it. So, and let's say it's Westphalia. If Westphalia ever comes up in the pool again of regions that it presents you with as an invasion option, it's now like way harder. So anytime you let these defenses slip, if you're ever given that region that you once had the choice to defend, it's now like way built up. It's like the enemies are way harder there. So now it's either like your choices become more limited. I don't know if that would be that important to have to represent that, but that could be a way to make it feel a bit more interactive. But again, we're getting into the weeds of making this continental map be more responsive, and I don't think that's fully necessary, at least on the first iteration of this system. Maybe that's something we can look into once it's built and running, and I can show you it working, and then we can come up with more ideas. But that is a way what I will say is there is plenty of room for innovation on this idea. There are ways you could expand that, like what I just said. And Neutron, yeah, the Fishbowl option is not the right choice. Yeah, I don't want players to just feel like there's less provinces here and it just feels like a worse Total War. I want them to feel like, oh, I'm a general and I'm getting like papers of areas I can attack and this is my army and I'm being sent into these regions. Like that's the kind of immersion I want the player to feel. I just remembered Heroes in Might Magic campaign. Why not have the paper map? Why not have the paper map over the regions? What do you mean by that, Stefan? Do you mean like this, where we take... Do I have an example of this map empty? I don't think I do. All right, let me just try to draw something. Are you suggesting doing... Like, this is my map. And then, let's say... Let me hide these. Okay, just pretend those aren't there. And then so it picks, let's say, this location... by random. It picks this location and that location. And then it throws these little maps on top of them. Like that. The only thing with this is like it feels messy to put maps on top of maps. So maybe you're not suggesting doing that. And in this case, it's really just, this would be solution number 2, which is the dynamic map. This is what I was proposing as well, where look, you just have these areas and you hover over them and they give you an example of like a randomly generated positive and negative for going into those areas. And then you just pick one and go. That's also perfectly acceptable. We could do that. It brings emphasis onto the bigger map, which on one hand gives you more context of the war, which is nice. But on the other hand, like makes you think this map is more important than it actually is. Like, oh, I need to get down to here. Well, no. This is just decoration, right? So I don't want them players to think that necessarily. Let me know if that's what you were getting at and if you have any thoughts on that. I want to play your game because I feel like a general commanding an army, not a head of state. Yeah, I think, Balin, I think that's most people, that's what the appeal is. So yeah, for them as well. Okay, I've got a lot of questions to catch up to, so I'm going to kind of bounce around. I guess what I'm hoping for is a feel of a commander on the campaign and be reacting to situations and intel. I like the choice system better. Mix it up with mission types, attack, defense, based on whether the intel is from subordinates or from political leadership. That part, the political leadership, I don't think would work. But yeah, mixing up mission types, that could be cool to have more mission types that it gives you. Where the choices you take are easy. Okay. When I watch your videos, I feel like I want to play as the person you're highlighting. Yeah. I don't think the arcade style of where you want to take this is going to complement the whole getting attached to your army direction you originally got at. I don't think the arcade style of where you want to take this. What do you mean by that, Merritt? Merritt, could you explain what's the arcade style of being handed the orders? Do you mean like just like the choose 3 that it's not as immersive? I'm not sure what the alternative would be, right? Like it's not complementing getting attached to your army. What would be the alternative? Like creating the ultimate dynamic map where I can move in free form and I'm dodging enemies and there's intel report. It's like, okay, if we don't have time to create that or the budget to create it and that's not possible, and this map is kind of like just in the background, how do you achieve that with, like, I'm just not sure what that solution is. Especially because the player is going to spend a total of probably 5 minutes or less on the screen choosing a region, and then they're going to spend maybe 3 hours in the actual region itself, like campaigning there and managing their forces. So it's 5 minutes versus 3 hours in gameplay. So that's also why when people say like, oh, it should be more complex, it should have this, and that, you're spending 5 minutes on it. It's a very small part of the game. Like the game is mainly zoomed in on these regions that you're fighting in. Okay, let me continue on. Jay says, which is minuscule compared to the amount of hours you will spend in the more depth areas. You will manage to get attached to your army in those screens. I think Jay was actually saying this a while ago and is kind of saying already what I'm saying too. Yeah, like the European map is minuscule compared to everything else. Yeah. Will our camps be the same always? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Cynthia. Do you mean like what? This is a work in progress, but add cache. You can actually see it expand over time. So look how it's getting bigger and it's being filled out. We're even going to animate that. So you'll see trees falling down and like camps getting erected. This will be animated. When I just clicked on those, they just snapped into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divisions. When the game's actually completed, they will animate into existence. Also, these camps will have different flags based on the country you're playing as. And they will even have a winter theme versus a summer theme, depending on the season of campaign that you're in as well. Guy says, I wasn't able to elaborate earlier, but what I meant was after taking a specific region, you would get a consequence. For example, I successfully defended East Prussia. I get +10 in morale. Like a reward. Yeah, I think doing little things like that would be nice, like offering players certain rewards for taking certain regions and feeling like if you've got a certain build, like you want to do a cavalry-oriented build and one region is going to award you an elite cavalry unit, now you want to go attack there. And that just plays more into like the personalization of the army and gets the focus away from like the geopolitics. So yeah, I think that stuff is kind of a no-brainer. I think no matter what we do, I think having a cool like reward system like that would be great. Losing an area by not defending it could be a difficult variety option after the system is built. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Proc says the idea of a player having to invade the same general area again while it being decided procedurally, not by some unseen AI, may make it more immersive. Good question. Will the camp screen change with the time of the year? Just for winter and summer. We're just doing warm season, cold season. If the game takes off and people like it, and we're lucky enough to be able to make another game after this, I would love to do all 4 seasons. Imagine how cool that would look to see like fall, summer, spring, and winter in your camp, and the weather even affecting it. I would love, this is more like 2 games in the future. I'd love to make this 3D, and then you would actually see each of those like camp positions. And you could even like use WASD and move around your camp and see your soldiers there or something like that. Could be even cooler. But again, that's kind of getting ahead of myself. We're just starting small and building out from there. Okay, generally, what are the portrait in the top right corner? So the top right is for officers or reserves. So if I had too many officers, let's say I wasn't lucky enough to have all 5 divisions, they would go into the reserve area. And then if you take losses, you can put those guys in reserve and then put the new guys in if you need to. I feel like it's kind of an underutilized part of the game. There's not really a reason to put people in reserve, but you do often have situations, like I'll give you an exact situation now, where like if you start a Prussian run, you only get 1 division with most armies. We're coming up to 1 hour now, so I'm going to wrap up soon. But so with Prussia, I see 4 divisions here. If I go into a region, Hadato, I would love the opportunity to do the French and Indian War. I think the region system would work awesome for the French and Indian War, because imagine going in and it's full of mountains and forests and you can barely see ahead of you, and one wrong step and a native band is like smashing into you, ambushing you, and getting ready to scalp and destroy your force. Like that could be like a hardcore survival experience, and your army would not be 5,000. Like your starting army would not be 5,000 men. Your starting army might be 500 men. It's like all the scales are small, and one misstep could end everything. That could be like a very hardcore kind of experience. That would be pretty cool. Anyways, what I wanted to explain with the reserve system would be if you go to a village and I recruit some Cantonists, I don't have enough divisions. Look, where do I put them? So you kind of want to keep them there, and I don't have enough money to open the next division. So you need to go fight a battle. So I would need to get in and fight. I was thinking about that, a recovery system, but I think for now, I don't think for now we're going to do that. I've thought about it. I would like to do it at some point, but not for now. By the way, we just got in like today some basic sound effects just to make it a little more immersive. If you zoom out, you hear the wind. If you zoom in, you don't hear the wind as much. Isn't that cool? Can you guys hear it? Let me see. Yeah, I think you can. And we got music in too. Take a listen. It's kind of cool. Right now, the music doesn't flow. We have battle music and deployment music. We're going to have it do a nice fade. Right now, it just cuts. Watch. Cut. It shouldn't do that. We're going to make it nicer in the final version, but yeah. You can take your troops, and the movement system's working now, so you can kind of draw out your own formations. Tell them to run. Tell them to walk. Do whatever you want here. It's cool seeing that working. The enemy AI still needs some work too. I'm only facing 1 enemy. This is just an example battle. But they're going to run up to position. They're a little disorganized. I think they should be a bit more cohesive when they run. But yeah, they're going to run up to position. We're going to unload on them. They're running up way too far. We can outflank them on the side here. We can run these guys across. Troops are reloading their muskets. Okay, they're running up. We're running over here. Us, and I'm gonna outflank them, send these guys. Again, they're just not like keeping formation. We still have like movement improvements. We have like about 6 months more of development, so we got plenty of time to iron stuff like that out. If anything, we're kind of ahead of schedule. Like we even have like all the stats you can read about your units. I can open fire, hit them in the back. There we go. Their morale's broken. They're gonna retreat. I'm gonna charge into them, and then we're gonna try to capture as many of these guys as we can. You can see their numbers are just tanking. We don't have the animations in for that, so our guys are kind of just running through them. But the function is there. The function's there that we can kind of capture them when we can see experience gain. I think one thing broke. Let me see what broke. I'll just report the bug real quick. Either way, that's just like a little glimpse. There we go. Okay. So yeah, still work in progress, obviously, but yeah, that's just to show you just some of the battle and campaign stuff. So the units in reserve, possibility of them appearing later in the battle. That's interesting, Austin. That's interesting. That's really interesting you say that. That's interesting. By the way, a lot of the sound effects are just generic right now. Like, we just threw them in just so we would be listening to something, so the game wasn't dead silent. So it's not completely done yet. But yeah, Austin, I haven't been able, like someone suggested, oh, they can recover faster when they're in reserve. Which, by the way, let me just show you one brand new feature that was added that I really love playing with. I don't know why I didn't think of that, Austin. You may have just come up with a really good idea that I've been looking to try to do that I haven't thought of. By the way, I can show off some of the other divisions too, like these are the Fry Corps. But look how fun this is. You can click onto a unit and you can actually pull their manpower down. So if you wanted to field smaller units and pull that manpower out and then put the manpower somewhere else, you could. And then this button just auto refills. The other thing that's really cool now that was just added recently is the ammo system got completely overhauled. If you hover down, it opens up. Check that out. It just fades in how much ammunition they have. So they have 140 supply. You can pull their supply out. Now they have no ammo. And if somebody else was low on ammo, you can give it to them instead. And so you can actually like reconfigure where ammunition's distributed and the manpower and kind of redistribute all of that accordingly. Or if everybody just got battered after a battle, you don't have to worry about micromanaging all this. Let's say this happened after battle. You can just click auto refill. And if you have the resources to do it, it'll just pull from your supply and your manpower. So that's really nice. But yeah, Austin, what you're saying is, or let me comment, somebody else was saying, yeah, if a unit is wounded, you could put them in reserve and they'll like heal faster. But that's not really a system in our game, right? Like if a unit's wounded, you take the manpower, you put it in, and there you go. So that doesn't really work. But what you're saying is, hey, if you put somebody in reserve, they don't get their own dedicated division, but they get to appear when you lose a unit, or they get to appear as a reinforcement. I think it could be cool, dude, if anyone in, like, any troop that you put in reserve just automatically is queued up to be a reinforcement that comes in the battle like 2 minutes late. It doesn't even have to be a thing where you have to wait until somebody dies. I think it could just mean anybody in reserve comes in 2 minutes late. I guess the issue, though, is if you have a wounded soldier and you don't want him in combat, like only 200 men, you'd put him in reserve to keep him out of combat. So if now he automatically comes in, you're like, no, we don't want you to come in. You're wounded, and I don't have enough manpower to refill you. I don't want you in combat. So I think that is maybe the issue I do see with that idea. It sounded cool at first, but I immediately noticed there's that problem where you'd use the reserve system to kind of keep troops out. Maybe there could be a button to like call in your reserves, and they can come in as a reinforcement. But again, those are kind of like future things that I could see as like later on in development or an update or something like that. Can a unit move immediately after shooting or immediately locked? They can move after shooting, but they'd have to restart their reloading or some of their reloading process. Only a portion of the reload process gets saved, so you can't like pour your powder out, interrupt them, and run. And now you're just right where you were. Now you have to kind of like re-pour your powder and kind of repeat a couple of those steps. If you've already finished all the powder and you're onto the ramrod phase, then they will just pick up right at ramming again. So it's kind of like a phase system with that. It's not fully completed yet. Yeah, that could be cool to have a tab to pull from reserves, and that just puts them into a reinforcement queue. Because then he's injured, and you're like, hey, we're doing bad in the battle. Look, everybody's dead. We got to pull in the reserves, you know, like send them in. Even though they're wounded, we have to pull them in. So that could be a cool idea too. I'll note that. Idea to have a button in battle that calls the reserves in, which puts them on like a 2-minute reinforcement queue. So if you're desperate or you have overflow units, they can come in late in the battle. There. Okay, I wrote down the idea. I do think it's a cool idea. Maybe mark them as reinforcement or not. Yeah, that's true. I'm sure, Austin, there could be ways to solve that. Or like, I honestly like the one idea where when you're in battle, you just have a button where you can call in the reserves. Exactly, like what Vielgard is saying. Like you might have your injured guys up here, but if you're desperate, you got to click a button to call in the reserves. Or if you just have too many units and you don't have enough divisions, you want to call in the reserves immediately. And they have to be in reserve because you don't have a division slot open. So any guy, if you neglect to buy more division slots like this, anybody you buy from that point on is going to have to be on this 2-minute delay to come into the battle. So it kind of has two different functions. If you have like overflow or if you have wounded troops, you can kind of decide to bring those guys in. So I like that. I think that's cool. Okay, you guys hopefully can get more of an impression of what the focus is on this game, and why that map has been such a thorn in our side right now, because it's such an unimportant part of the game, but I'm trying to make sure it feels cohesive and isn't overly complex for what it is. I want it to be quick and snappy and just like get you into a region and having fun and not stuck on this map and like trying to guess what the hell's happening on it. In general, though, do you guys like this idea of like the battle plans slide onto the table, you complete one, and then you see like a little marker of what you just conquered that folds back out, and then you're given 2 more battle plans? Or do you think you should just be on this map and just keep generating like nodes for me to just attack, and it just keeps doing this over and over, and you just stay on this map? What do you guys prefer? This is called the dynamic map option versus the choice system option, where you are slid the papers and showing like your progress. Or do you like neither system? I don't know. But it's tough for me to come up with a system that kind of fits the choice system. Okay. I will have my next step, if you guys prefer that. I think the choice system's better for actual tactics. Yeah, my next step then will be to get an artist to create some concept art for how that'll look. But that to me is like the last part of the game that I want to get reworked, because it just doesn't fit right now. Okay, good feedback. Good to know. And why do you guys like it? Let me just end on that too. Just in case I end up making changes to the design, I want to know what seems appealing. Do you like the immersion factor? Do you like the fact that you feel like a commander like on the table and you see the plans being given to you? Do you feel like it's better because it's just quicker? So you just see your 2 decisions. It's very clear. You pick one. Like what exactly is appealing compared to just doing the same choices but just showing them on a big European map? Any kind of immersion factor, yeah. I like the music in this game. It's very relaxing when you're in the camp. This part is so satisfying to drag around the health and the ammunition. I like that part too. Also, look what just got added. Look at the commander. You can change the hat he's wearing, his haircut. You can change his uniform. Look at all the different Prussian officer uniforms. You can even give him like a cuirassier uniform. And you could roleplay like whoever you want to. You could be like, all right, look who was born early. There's Napoleon. And then you could be like, all right, we're forming a Napoleonic army. I'm going to go form these, you know, Napoleonic battle flags. Or you could do like this. You could be like, this is the Irish brigade. Be like, all right, let's give them this and give them that. There we go. We've got the Irish brigade. So like the Fusiliers de Ligne. Like you could role play anything you want to, or you could be like super historical and you could say, all right, let's open up the Kronoskopf battle list. Let's look at the Prussian army. Let's find a historical Prussian regiment, von Amstel. Go to the Amstel infantry. Name these guys the Amstel infantry. Go down to the page. Find the uniform they wear. They wear red facings. Grab these guys. Open up the uniform color. Give them the red facings. Then go down. Check out the battle flag. Open up their flag. Grab the emblem, which would be either of those, which I think we'll do this one. The pattern is like a wavy one, so I think it's this one. And then it's black and white. There. And now you just remade that flag there. Honestly, the emblem could probably... There. I think that emblem fits more, or... There we go. Look at that. That's perfect. That's the exact emblem. And then we can go back, and then we can be like, all right, these guys are... Yeah, the Amstel infantry. And now look, Amstel infantry with the exact flag they used. So you could do anything. You could be super realistic to the history, or you can like completely create like a Napoleonic or French or Irish or whatever you want to do. Like I think the roleplay opportunities are pretty vast. And just because I don't show it off enough, we have the other armies in the game. Most of them are done. like the Observation Corps, the Cossacks. So these are the Russians here. They're coming out of East Prussia. You can see the uniforms here. You can change all of that. All the different Russian uniforms. You have all the Russian flags, Russian patterns. Look at all these. You have different colors you can use. They have purple because the Russians did use that. Look how nice some of the flags you can make. Look. So there's some really cool stuff. Also, you have unit trees too. Check that out. So you can reform the observation musketeers into grenadiers or pandors, which is neat. So there's all kinds of units with different what's it called? Trees that you can go down. And then let me read. Simple and clear. My imagination does the heavy lifting, which is good. Yeah, I like being commander, not worrying about the effect you have. The dynamic map feels misleading. It takes the focus away from the main point. I agree. Immersion gives you the instinct not to 3 regiments of. Strange though to take so many troops from infantry and put them into cavalry. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, I like take them out of the manpower. Yeah, it's a little gamified. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to play like that. If there are certain things that break your immersion, you know, use the flags that look most historical. Don't pull regiment. Don't pull manpower out of the cavalry. You can draw from other sources. You can play as historical as you want to. We don't force players to break their immersion in that way, I think. Waffles, there will definitely be sound design all over. I think we have some really satisfying sounds as you drag the manpower and ammo bar for sure. We just have not focused on the sounds yet. Do you think morale should show next to the ammo bar? I don't think so, Austin, because all troops in the camp start at full morale. Will the enemy use the anachronistic flags? No. The enemy will only use historical flags. So it's your choice as a player to break historical accuracy if you want to. But if you don't want to go anywhere near breaking historical accuracy, and you want to follow the exact army patterns and order of battle, and you want the AI to engage you with that, the AI will always be 100% historical, no matter what. Yeah, the customization is something we've been focusing on a lot because everyone's been saying that's their favorite part. Like, even check this out. This is one last thing I want to show off before I leave. If you go to a town, do I have cheats enabled? Or is it broken? Okay, hold on. I broke something. Just ignore me. I messed it up. Let me go in with the Prussians because I know they work. There we go. Ignore the fake quotes that we made as jokes. But yeah, this is weird. Do you have to go to Lusatia to go to Altmark? Like, why do I have to go down to go up? That seems weird. Let me see here. There we go. But check this out. I love this. I think I was showing this off before, but like regimental staff, buckshot rounds for my troops. I can give troops quartered musket balls so that when they hit the enemy, they explode on impact. I have blankets I can give my troops too. There's haversacks. I have chaplains too. So I can buy all these. I don't think I can afford all this, but how much is this? Damn, it's expensive. Okay, 200. But look, I can go to this unit, the Prussian Musketeers, and give them the haversacks. And you notice their morale just got boosted by giving them that item. But it's cool because you can tell little stories. You're like, all right, I gave the Musketeers haversacks, and these guys are a little more well-equipped. I might give this regiment a chaplain, and then after giving them a chaplain, I'm going to give them the papal symbol and give them like a yellow flag, like yellow and white that almost looks kind of papal looking, and call them like the Papal Guard. You know, like you could just make up all these stories with the types of items, and you give them a chaplain and religious symbols and give them a name, and anything you want to do you can kind of make, which is really fun. Like your imagination is, the sky's the limit for whatever you want to do with it, just based on the variety of all the different items and flags and names and stuff that you can give units. And then here's another example of a larger, the UI is not finished yet, but this is just an even larger unit tree for the Prussians, where you've got Fusiliers, Grenadiers, Grenadier Guards, Drilled Musketeers, Fry Infantry, the Jaegers, Hussars, Dragoons, Cuirassiers, Horse Artillery, all kinds of units with all their own uniforms and stats and characteristics. You can preview like all their different... These guys, the Prussian Guards, look really cool in battle. I wonder if I could show them. I've already been streaming too long. I do have to go, so I'll show that next time. I'll do a devlog, I think, this week and show off customization in more depth. But yeah, okay, I'm going to close this out, answer any final questions, and then I will leave you. But I appreciate all the feedback. It was honestly very, very helpful to see what you guys thought. Let me take some screenshots of what you said, too. Okay, I'm going to grab this. And then I'm going to grab, I'm screenshotting so I can show the feedback you guys gave and then show that to the developers and we can actually talk about it. There. Cool. So your feedback matters. I very much care what you guys have to say. Wow, this looks so much more polished than the last stream. Yeah, dude, it's every month I feel like the game makes this giant leap forward. And we have 6 months left, so I'm feeling so good about it. The battles feel good. The camp feels really nice. There's even little leaves that blow. We've got some music in now. So the only thing that's not polished, that's like the biggest thorn in our side, is the regional map, that European map. So that part is so tough. But hopefully with your feedback, we can get something that's working a bit better. Yeah, flag capturing mechanic. I still would love to do that too. I think that would be quite cool. One might object to meeting role-playing enemy player when one plays a single-player game. Yeah, no, the enemy AI will never use fake flags. They're always gonna play historically and look historical. The game will not be free, no. It will not be free, guy. That would be, I don't know how we would pay for any of this. But yeah, thank you, Electric. I think the customization's coming out great as well. I'm pretty excited for it. And I'm excited to see what kind of like armies people build. They can do all these different themes. You could have a whole division dedicated to having like a Swiss theme. Even like some of the unit trees, just to show you, like the British have like a German themed tree. The French have Irish, German, Swiss. You could build entire divisions and like roleplay all these different types of armies, and I think there's a lot of fun ways people can take their armies. Okay, I'm going to leave now. Thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll do